Can I get a sausage and egg McMuffin and a large coffee?
Evil Greg, who's in here earlier, won every single game and tabled every single opponent. It was by far the filthiest bot action list I have ever seen.
We attended Outrider Games 1,000-point event. First off, Outrider Games in Lichfield, couldn't recommend them enough. Everyone was super friendly and welcoming. It was a 10-player turnout with a good range of armies and lists. Round 1 was random pairings and then Swiss pairings from game 2 and 3. It just ensured that people played against others of the same skill and experience level. The games and the deployments were determined by dice roll at the start of each round, which made it all fair. They were doing an escalation event, so there was a 750-point event that we missed out on. This was the 1,000-point event, and there'll be a 1,250 event in future, which we're looking forward to attending. We took down some terrain to help out with one of the tables. If it wasn't for being 2 hours away, we'd definitely be going there more often for the club nights. And I know they do have a league going on as well. In our last video, we built some lists, but I made a slight change at the last minute. So it's still inexperienced platoon commander, 3 green Grenadier squads, inexperienced company commander, given the +4 morale buff and the 4 snap 2 orders. I had 2 regular 250/4s, the experimental ones with the extra MMG, for 65 points. You can't really complain about that. It's a 5-man capacity, 7 armour, 2 MMGs give you, 14 shots of flak or 8 shots against anything else, which is great for the points. Instead of a 3rd one, I took an inexperienced Hannomag, mainly because that's a 12-man capacity with 1 MMG, so it was less shots but higher capacity to carry troops in. For the pointers saved, I took a veteran Panzer 4 with Panzer Ace, so that upgraded the Pen 6 gun to Pen 7, basically meaning it's a super heavy anti-tank gun, and it gets +1 to damage rolls on the damage table, which is great, because usually you double penning with that. With the extra points, I put the side skirts on it, so made the sides armour 9 against any shape charges. I had a regular Nashorn, which again is another super heavy anti-tank gun. With that, you can shoot the MMG or the super heavy anti-tank gun. Seems a bit pointless. Why would you ever shoot the MMG? And the artillery platoon, had to take it because I wanted to test out the Errata rules. So platoon commander, inexperienced, and 4 inexperienced howling cows. So it was 15 dice, 1,000 points on the dot. Anyways, onto the event. Round 1, it was rolled off and we got demolition. So this is the one where you get an objective, they get an objective. You have to get an infantry model within 3 inches of the objective, and then you roll on it at the end of the turn to blow it up. That's the win condition. It was first wave deployment. Now, I played Paul with his Japanese. Massive shout out to Paul for his insane 16 dice list and just being an all-round nice guy to play against. From what I can remember, he had 6 10-man infantry squads with rifles, anti-tank rifle team, suicide anti-tank team, a medium anti-tank team, but no armour platoon. So it was all regular except the inexperienced suicide anti-tank teams. The board was set up as a desert, so it had some buildings dotted round, which was great for me. The trees we agreed line of sight blocking, and there was a few clumps of rocks which were impassable and line of sight blocking. My base was at the bottom right, his was at the top left. So Early on in deployment, I placed the tanks down to see if I could force out some of the anti-tank units. With this, you always have to consider how much to keep back and how much to push to take their objective. But with it being first wave, I had to run the cows on, set them up turn 1 so they could fire in turn 2. His deployment, he ended up with quite an even spread across his backline. So I focused the middle building with the cows, hung back for a few turns to do as much damage as I could, and focused all the anti-tank options. Once the anti-tank units were gone, I just pushed up with the transport and the heavy things. I started clearing the units around his base, then run the Hannomag up to mid-board. In the Hannomag, I had 2 5-man Green Grenadier squads and a platoon commander. In the last turn we played, I advanced up with the Hannomag, all 3 units in there jumped out 6 inches and got within 3 of his base. So in that turn I managed to kill the remaining units he had, and at the end of the turn roll on the objective and blew it up. So during the game I think he killed 1 of the 2 guys in the Howling Cow group with a sniper. So that forced the order check because it's only a 2-man group, but because they were close to the company commander, given the +4 morale buff, they passed. One of the models in the Green Grenadier squad got picked off by an infantry unit as well, forcing me to roll on that green rule. Now, hoping I didn't get a 1 because that would have been D6 pins, but I rolled a 2 or 3. If I would have got D6 pins, they would have probably just been gone. At the end of the game, I didn't lose any units. I scored the max points, killed all 16 of his, and I got the win condition. It's a great start. It was a really good game. I proper enjoyed it, and I really like playing against Paul, so I am definitely down for a rematch in future. Round 2 roll-off, we got double envelopment. The deployment type was sectors. I played Dave with his Soviet army. He had 2 artillery observers, 3 tanks. Now these were the Su-76 tanks, which I've never played against, but they have the choice of the shots. They can either shoot a light howitzer or a medium anti-tank gun, which is Pen 5. He had SMG squads and some Shirker units with a commander as well. The thinking behind this one is that kill points are worth 1 point. A unit off the board is worth 3 points. Now, as he had lower dice count than me to start with, if I could get a few kills and get a few off the board, I could secure the win. But I knew I'd have to make up for the artillery because they can only run 6. There's no chance I was getting them to the back of the board before the end of the game. I focused on getting the transports off the board. I packed the Hannomag with a 5-man squad, 2 platoon commanders and a company commander, meaning that if I got the Hannomag off the board, including the Hannomag itself, that would have been 5 units at 3 points each, so that's 15 game points. The start of the next turn, I snapped 2 of the cows, done some damage, done some pins. Luckily the Su-76 tanks are open top, so I think I popped one of them and the other one got some pins on it, just delayed it further. And I run the Hannomag up the board 18 inches behind a building, so it blocked the line of sight. So with the deployment being 24 on the left hand side, I deployed at 24, run 18, meaning that I was quite close to the backboard getting them 5 units off. Now he's straight on to what I was doing and he put one of his tanks in ambush, and I didn't want to risk him shooting me in the side as I was trying to get that off, because that would have been D6 hits on everything in there, would have wiped everyone, would have messed me plan up completely. So I hung back with the Hannomag. I pushed up the Panzer 4 and managed to take it out with the Panzer 4, meaning it was free to get off the board. But before I could do that, the artillery strike came in and it went off right near the Hannomag, which could have messed everything up if it would have hit it with a blast. Luckily, it only resulted in pins, which were fine because the company commander was in the transport with the 12-inch +4 morale buff, so managed to pass the order check on the Hannomag and get it off the board for the 15 points. The rest of the game I knew I was ahead, so I was just focusing kill points and pushing up. So advance up, kill some units, advance up, kill some units. At the end of the game, I got 11 units off the table. At 3 points each, that's 33 points, and 7 kill points for a total of 40. Now, he got 3 units off the board for 9 points, and he killed one of my units for another point, so it was 40 points to 10 points. It was a really good game, really strategic because of how the board was set out. The cows I had to have on the back left corner, mainly because they had line of sight, but the big church, there was quite a lot of ruins that blocked line of sight, so I had to kind of play around them and kind of waited for him to get in the clearing, try to get some like little shots between buildings, so it was a really close game. Round 3 was rolled and it was top secret, first wave deployment. Again, not great for me because the cows have to come on, set up, can't shoot till turn 2. Now, I was matched up against the second place, who was a guy called Angry Dave, and his veteran Stug Rider list. So the board itself wasn't great because it was all ruins with one clearing in the middle. Not the best for me because I couldn't target any buildings. And there was kind of straight lines of sight to my backboard, so anything with long range could, start picking off them howling cows. The downfall of the Stug Rider list is that it was only 7 dice, so I straight away had the dice advantage. You had a veteran platoon commander with 4 guys, 3 lots of veteran Stug Riders, and 3 Stugs. One was Panzer Ace, his command tank, so that was equipped with a super heavy anti-tank gun because of the +1 it gives and the +1 damage. So that was my main target. That's the thing that could do damage to my big things. He had another Stug to follow that up, a Pen 6, and the third one had a howitzer. Now, I've never played against Stug Riders before, so I had to check up on the rules for this, but I found out that if you declare shots against the tank, the riders have to disembark D6 inches. Now, that was great for me. So the first turn, I run both of the 250/4s up and shot at the tanks, meaning that the riders had to disembark the D6 inches, and I knew they were in range for the howling cows. Turn 2, snapped to all of the howling cows and shot them at, I think it was covering 4 or 5 of his 7 dice. So rolled 4 times, killed one of the Stug Riders, hit the command tank, put D3 pins on it, and then followed up with the 2 heavy anti-tank guns and took the other Stug out. In the first turn, I run the Hannomag up 18 inches. In turn 2, the platoon commander in the Hannomag snapped to the Hannomag. He advances out, picking it up. The Hannomag run around in front of him and blocked his line of sight. So just provided that level of protection so that if he did get shot at, I've got some form of cover while he's running to my backboard and trying to get the objective off. In the next turn, I used the long range of the Panzer IV and the Nashorn to take shots at his tanks. The Panzer Ace Stug took a shot at me but failed its order check because of them D3 pins, even with the platoon commander by it. The platoon commander run towards my deployment and I moved all the tanks in the way to block all line of sight, protecting the asset and getting it off the board. I think it was the first dice of turn 4 I could have ran off the board. But we kept going for kill points. I managed to kill all 7 dice of his without losing a dice. Now, the name Angry Dave does not do this guy justice. He was a great guy. He wasn't angry in the slightest. And I had to give him my vote for best sporting because he took an absolute beating, but he took it well. And we spent the rest of the time, because we finished quite early, just discussing German lists and how to build things. And, it was good seeing other people's take on how to build a list, what they think's good. So really good game with Dave. Definitely up for a rematch one day if he fancies it. The event results. In third place, we had Miles with his Australians. 1 win, 2 draws, worked out at 4 points. In second place, we had Phil with his US, with the Pershing air power list. 2 wins, 1 draw, 11 points. And in first place, if you haven't guessed by now, it was me with my Germans. The Mechanised rocket Panzer list. 3 wins to no losses, 52 points, which over quadruples the points of second place. And I lost 1 unit during the entire 3 games. So the main takeaways. First off, the Errata did nothing. The infantry did nothing. I've never been an infantry player, but I had the firepower of everything else to back it up. The Green Grenadiers, I got out of the Hannomag once, and they did nothing. They were just there to grab objectives and to score things. MLRs being able to target buildings, overpowered. MLR's blast template of 3 inches with pen 3, overpowered. Howling Cow cost 36 points, underpointed.
First game was against Miles. It was a demolition game. The aim was to get to each other's base and destroy the base on a 4-up. The board that we played on, it was quite an unusual board. It was actually really, really fun to play on. So down each of these short table edges, there was a Stalingrad-like ruins, and then in the middle, it was more of a park with a lot of hills. Both me and Miles agreed we'd play the ruins as ruins and just soft cover through the park. So there was a lot of cover over the table, which certainly had, I think, an impact on the game. Miles brought a British force. It was a really interesting British force, actually, and it had many different units in it. So there was some SAS veterans in there. There was some Gurkhas in there who I had no idea as to the close quarter combat rules on the Gurkhas, what absolute strength they had. He had an AA gun. He had an interesting, I think it was a Matilda tank with the flamethrower. And he also had one of my favourite tanks, the Stuart Little. So it was Stuart on Stuart action for part of this game. We both set up and we both placed the bases at opposite table quarters within the Stalingrad-like ruins. This made the game extremely difficult, I think, for both of us to actually get a victory, because there was just too much for our infantry to have to wade through to get to the base. As such, the game kind of fell on kill points, really. Overall, it was 5 kill points each. To be fair to Miles, I think Miles was an absolutely brilliant opponent. It was a really tough first game. I didn't do myself any favours with my deployment, and I think Miles set up really, really well. He essentially was trying to push 2 sections of infantry up through the ruins, one to stop my infantry getting to his base, the other to hit his base, so it was really, really difficult to balance against. We both had some quite close quarters fighting, and interestingly, Miles also brought an artillery observer, so it was a bit of battle of the observers. He took out one of my observers early, so it kind of evened out the field on artillery and air observers. Initially, early rounds, I took out his flamer tank with the Pershing, which I think he wasn't too pleased about, to be honest, because he had an excellent bead on some of my rangers, and I needed to make those shots. And I made them, and I think that was pretty much the best I got for a long while, because the artillery was an absolute other question. Me and Miles had a right laugh with both our artillery observers. So my artillery observer essentially just wouldn't come in. It was delayed 2 rounds, and by then Miles had got out of range of what the pins would really do. A lot of his infantry and units were spread out, and the 18 inches just took me to another unit. That wasn't the worst of it. I think poor Miles had the worst of it. He called the artillery strike in. It came in on a 1, but it was a misdirect fire, wasn't it? And it came slap bang right back in on his own artillery observer. He had some staying power, that artillery observer. He loved it. We both had to laugh about it, but artillery was really out of the game for this. It was more what units you had. And Miles did manage actually to get up to my base. He had far better infantry than I had. He pushed up to the base, and luckily I just turned the Pershing round and point blank the SAS squad that was sat on the base. This then really left it where both of us just couldn't score the objectives. We couldn't get up to the markers that we put down for the demolition. We didn't have the infantry to do it. So it was essentially going to be a draw, whatever we did. At that point, it came down to kill points. So we both had 5. I think kill points could have gone either way. I had a lot of infantry that were down to 1 or 2 men, and he had a lot of infantry pushing up onto those infantry. On the other side, I still had the Pershing working. I could have taken out, there was a few small squads, his mortar team. I think he had an anti-tank rifle team over there. I'm not sure. If he's watching this, I'm sure he'll let me know. And he had his medic. So there was a few squads that we could have taken out each, and then it would have been a bit of a battle of attrition. What we decided, because we were coming to the end of time, was we'll see if he could roll on my base. So it came out a draw, but I think that was... It should have been a draw in Miles's favour, really. I think he played it really well. My infantry didn't make it up to half board. He at least got in sight of the base, and unfortunately there's not much you can do against the 3-inch template. So I would have liked to have finished it, and a big thank you to Miles. I really, really enjoyed the game. You know, we both had roles that we just were staring in just disbelief, but we had a laugh about it. It was super friendly. And I think a draw, I think we were both happy with a draw. So that was my first game. The second player that I played was James, and we played the mission Double Envelopment on the Dice Ghost table. The Dice Ghost table we took down, it wasn't a table that me or Greg had played before. I don't know whether it gave us an advantage or not, because... obviously, it is our home table. I don't know whether there was a subliminal advantage there. I didn't feel like there was, because obviously it was a completely different terrain setup to what we've played before. But it was quite fun to play on home table. James had brought a British army. It was a really beautiful army, actually. James mentioned to me that he'd been modelling since a very young age. You could really see that, you know, he'd taken time and pride over those models. It was my vote for best painted army for that reason. I thought it was such a nice force. It was made up of a lot of different infantry units. He also took a Crusader AA, which was not what an air observer list wanted to hear. It was another just beautifully painted tank and a Humber. He had an artillery observer in there, which will come into play in a couple of minutes when I tell you about how the game went. And with the double envelopment mission, essentially you've got to push units forward, and it was played by both players in that vein. We both were desperate to push units forward, so it was a bit of a meat grinder on both sides this game, and I really enjoyed that. You know, neither me nor James could sit back. We had to get units into the fight, and I think we both had a bit of kind of the luck with it. So early rounds, I had the luck, definitely. The Pershing comes on, needs a 5. It, you know, took out a serious amount of one of James's units. The Stuart came on, put, you know, more fire out. So I was having the best of it. And then one of James's decisions that I don't know whether he'd do this again was to leave the Crusader off the table for the first rounds. We were playing table quarters, so everything was quite bunched up anyway, and it essentially meant that if I could get the air observers in, there was no flak. So that had a big kind of swing on how well the early rounds went for me. I got some of the air observers to come in. Even though they came in on a 1, James moved it to absolutely the right unit. The one unit that he could move it to was I'd put one air observer on his anti-tank rifle because it was threatening my Pershing, and another on an infantry. The one on a 1, he moved onto the anti-tank rifle. So even though both of them would come in that turn, he only took 1 round of pins, and I thought that was a really good decision. It still had quite a debilitating effect, I think. and his first artillery strike didn't come in, which I was hoping would let me move, because there was a few units. If that had come in, it would have made turn 2, a little bit more difficult. So we went into turn 2, and our positioning was pretty good. So he decides to move the artillery strike that's due to come in quite early in the turn. That allowed me to move what I thought was a distance away from the artillery, and it was just quite an attritional round. So we were essentially now positioning, trying to stop each other coming off the table, essentially. So there was infantry squads that were advancing turns 2 and 3 into each other's deployment zones, and we used our reserves really, really well. So I had a couple of squads of infantry that I brought on, destroying a squad of his infantry at short range. James thought, yeah, that's a cracking idea. He brings his Humber on and just obliterates my infantry doing the same thing. And then it came down to, we had the artillery strike to come in. So essentially my units had moved from where the strike was due to come in. What I thought it was at least 10 inches, possibly everything was out of range. So I was quite confident. James had an absolutely beautiful session of rolling for his artillery strike. It came in, and obviously it's D6 plus 6. He bangs it on a 6. So we measured for what units. I think there was 4 in total units that he could hit with it. All of them were 10, 11, and the Pershing was 12 inches away. So there was an officer unit, a regular infantry unit, the air observer, and the Pershing. So I was still feeling quietly confident. It was 5 units, but I thought he may get a hit. So he got a hit on the regular unit. It wiped that, and because the officer was so close, because I was trying to get them out of the blast, it wiped that. And then he rolled on the air observer. That one didn't come in. It was a couple of pins. By that time, the air observer had called their strike in. It wasn't going to make much of a difference. And he hit on the Pershing. So it was a heavy howitzer on the top. I thought, I'd had so much luck in the first rounds. I thought he's probably going to get this. It was some of the best artillery rolling I have ever seen. And it could have absolutely swung the game, I think. It really, really could, because it affected everything that was going on my right flank. And if it had taken the Pershing out, I think James would have definitely had the advantage. Fortunately, I think it was a 1 or a 2 that he rolled on the damage for the Pershing. So it just took some pins. We'd kind of been very attritional, and it had come up to time, and we played it out as to who'd get what in each other's table edge, who'd get what off the board, and that came down in my favour. I can't remember the exact number of points, but it was 3 or 4 points more, including the kill points. I had a few more kill points, but I think if the rounds had played on, he may have got a number more kill points. But obviously the Pershing was still in play, the Stuart was still in play, and more of my units were getting forward, essentially. So I still think we called it as a win for me. I still think it would have been a fun game. I wish we had more time to play it out, because I was really enjoying spending time with James anyway. We had a few laughs across the table as the game went on, and it was like everything at this event. It was played in such good spirits. I really, really enjoyed that game, and I would have liked to have finished it, because the way it had been so swingy, I think James could have come back. I think if a couple of dice rolls had gone his way, if a couple had gone my way, it could have been one of those times where you had one army obliterated, and at the point we stopped, yes, it was in my favour, but I think there could have been a few things that went against me, and I could have lost pretty much everything. So it was such a fun game, and thanks to James, thanks to all the players, really. I really enjoyed all my games. and it was nice playing on home soil, on home terrain, shall we say. My final game was against Paul. So Paul had taken a Japanese force, which, if we're going down that road of meta, Japanese probably aren't the strongest force at the moment. And we were playing top secret. Now, Paul mentioned to me after the game he'd not been into bolt action that long, and he was getting into the Japanese. Another really nicely painted army. I thought all the armies on the day were really, really nicely painted, and some had such nice themes. His Japanese list, it was made up of what a Japanese list should be made up of. It had the stickmen, it had big infantry squads, he had a light anti-tank gun in there, he had a motorbike, and he had a horse with a sword. Well, the horse didn't have a sword, but the guy on the horse had a sword, which I thought was great. I really, really liked his army. Other units had swords in. It was pure Japanese. So even though he's new in, he's got the feel for the theme, and I thought it was definitely a fun list. The top secret, we'd rolled for table quarters as well. I won the roll off, which I definitely don't think helped Paul. And his list also had a AA gun in it. So that was also another concern. I was playing all lists with AA guns. It was only a single light autocannon, but it was something to be aware of, especially as my list was so heavily focused on those air observers. So deployment wise, I had Rangers, and given that I'm of a similar kind of time frame to what Paul is, I've been to tournaments and learnt my lessons on top secret, and I think that was going to be the difference in this game. So my Ranger unit with that free move just moved up within 12 of the objective for the briefcase, they call it now, without having to make a move. So I was already on a run order to pick up that briefcase. The rest of the deployment would depend on who got first dice. It was me who got first dice, so I picked up the briefcase straight away. So that meant Paul would have to come on and destroy that unit and take the briefcase. I'm not ashamed to admit I then spent a lot of time daisy chaining my units. So I was getting everything ready to get the briefcase off the table. So I had a distinct advantage just by the unit that I took there. Paul set up his army. I think it may have been a bit of a learning exercise for Paul, that if I'd have played those Japanese, I would have been wanting to get them up in the face. I'd set up as close as I could to that objective, even though it was table quarters. I think maybe he was thinking that would take a risk because the air observers would then roll on more pins. So he set up quite a spread out force. He hid the AA gun behind a ruined church, which was to protect it from any fire because he wanted the flak to come in. I think with me having the briefcase, I would have left it out and had it firing, because it essentially meant he had nothing to fire at for the whole game except for the flak. But I could see where he was coming from with that. He set up quite spread out. He put his anti-tank gun on a hill, and because it was a light anti-tank gun, I knew it was only 48 inch range, which then affected me bringing on my my Pershing and my little little tiny Stuart. So they were out of 48 inch range. It was on a hill. It was difficult to move. And the Stuart, once again, I never get this luck, hit an infantry squad on a 5-up when it came on. So it did really, really well. It took out a unit there. The air power came in again, and that had quite a devastating effect. I think that pretty much took out another unit. And it was looking as though he needed to get moved up and grab that briefcase. So he was quite at a disadvantage anyway, and obviously all of his infantry was on foot. So we had a chat about it, and I said, I think what you need to do now is get that infantry up, because you need to destroy the veteran rangers that I've got on it. The next couple of turns, so he then did that. He tried to move his infantry up, and obviously it wasn't firing. It was just running to try and get in a position. He made some really for someone new in. I wish I was playing the way Paul was. He made some great moves, including assaulting my air observer to prevent it bringing in another airstrike, which I thought was brilliant. And who doesn't love a banzai charge? So he was double, triple, quadruple dead from that charge, and it put him in a great position, because then he could consolidate. So it actually worked him further up the board, but I think the consolidation was quite low. So he was getting in the right positions, but unfortunately he was taking fire from a lot of my units, with the Pershing doing even more work. I actually put the Pershing in ambush, and because it was table quarters, it came on a road that was it went down the middle lengthways. So he needed to cross that road to get in my deployment zone, which was where all my infantry was. And to do that, he's going to take a shot from the Pershing, which had no cover, which would have been, it was difficult. So I think from me picking up the briefcase, Paul was on a bit of a back foot. So we played it out, and we were coming up for time, and we got, I can't remember whether it was turn 3 or turn 4, but if I got the dice, the Rangers had worked their way back, so they were one move, I think it was turn 4, and they were one move away from getting off the board. So it was about when I drew first dice. So he drew, I think, 1 or 2 dice. He put a couple of pins on, and I was getting a bit nervous there. So the first dice I drew, I used the Stuart to kill a stickman, one of their exploding bombs, because I was looking just to get some kill points, because I knew it was pretty close between me and who Greg was playing in the third game, which, to be fair, I don't think was the most sporting thing for me to do. You know, I had that mission beaten. I could have just given the order to the Rangers. They were within scope of the company commander, so they were rolling on 11 to run off the board. But I think kill points mattered there, so the next dice I drew, I snapped a couple more units, just to kill off some of the small units, so that I could get a couple of extra kill points. And he was really great about that. I think he understood that, you know, that was the slight competitive side in me coming out. But overall, I think it gave me a lot of deja vu, this game, about a game I played in another tournament where I was playing a slightly more experienced player and I was quite new into it, and I just didn't play the mission. And I don't know whether Paul thought he didn't want to take the risk of those air observers, or he just wasn't so focused on the mission of that briefcase is really important. But I think it's one of those things that you go through, especially, he mentioned he'd never played Top Secret before. It's got a certain play style to it, and units like infiltrators and rangers and scouts can really make a difference. Just like with the other games, I really enjoyed chatting to Paul as we played the game, and, you know, finding out about his experience as a bolt action. And I always love a Japanese player, especially in V3, because the Japanese are taking a lot of heat at the minute, and for someone to bring a Japanese infantry heavy unit, I was glad I played it. I don't play that, you know, type of army that much. Being a US player at tournaments, you're Germany, and it was really nice to see what he'd done with it. So that was my final game. The kill points, I think, were 8-1. But the one he got was it was cinematic, and you know, it was just a really enjoyable game, and a great game to kind of close out the day. So thank you to Paul as well for having, you know, I hope he enjoyed it as well.
After event discussion, It's different from an after-battle discussion.
I
So,
really like that.
I've got 2 words for you. Silver, Phil.
No comment. Just unbelievable.
Does this officially make it a thing now?
No, it doesn't make me silver, Phil.
What
Hold
can we
in
do?
training, Phil.
Now, the US are getting their new book, and you're going to have access to MLRs. Now, I know, is that going to be the turning point for Silver Phil to upgrade to Gold Phil?
100%. It's going to level some playing fields, isn't it? I'm really looking forward to that book. Yeah, I'm hoping it's going to give us a little bit more advantage to push for that gold. 2 silvers and a third. But let's talk about, what is it? Is that your third first place in a row?
Yeah, 3 on the bounce. I know the point in this in the first place. Now, this is the first one since the Errata.
Yeah.
Talk online is MLRs are dead. 36-inch minimum range. I didn't have any problem with that. They done all the damage in turn 1 and 2. Not once did I have to, go, oh, right, that's out of range. And there were games where people were advancing. So we had Demolition, they had to get close. Double Envelopment, they had to get close. And Top Secret was, mid-board, but still, these 3 games specifically are all about pushing forward, pushing to an objective. I'm going to put it on record now, the Errata did nothing to this list.
Did it do nothing, do you think? Which one would you find more difficult to deal with? The current way that it's a 36-inch range and 1 pin, or the 12-inch range and D3 pins? Which one would you prefer to have in play?
I prefer the current one because it's easier for me to kill things and shoot them off. It was harder for me to do that with D3 pins. The company commander can offset 4, but ultimately, if you get 3, then shoot again and get 3, you're still, even with him, +2 up. If anything, the 1 pin is a buff. But ultimately, we've spoke about this in the past ones. It's not just the MLRs on their own that are the issue. It's the ability to shoot them all first turn, first dice into your deployments before you get a chance to react. Now, you can go down, no problem. You can go down, but you're still taking the pins and you're not moving. So I know you're in range, and I'm going to do the exact same thing and hammer another volley of shots into your next turn. So it's not really going to do anything by going down.
I think the Errata was meant not to be a buff, but it's a buff. I think it's a buff. I agree with you. I'd rather not have the D3 pins and just manage the range.
Yeah.
So,
but the alpha strike ability comes from the company commander. This is what it is. Now, I want to test this out with other things. It's the ability to shoot 4 things or activate 4 things that are the main issue. So let's see how much we can get away with this. Let's build some lists with company commanders and let's see what we can do.
Yeah, I agree. I'm working on a US new book list that's definitely going to lean into that company commander. It is so powerful if you get it right.
Oh, this is like a Silver Phil to be continued.
What was that TV program, Going for Gold? That's what I feel like right now.
Now, one thing I'd say, this is the first video we've done in 2 parts. Now, obviously, you've got into your editing, you've done your own section for the US. The commentary is night and day. I'm very black and white. I'm like, I go here, I do this, I kill this, I won, end of. Your one's totally different. I feel like I'm there, like I'm playing along with you, like I'm in your head and I know every thought. You know what I mean? Like, so in some parts, it did go further. It reminds me of, is it Abe Simpson? Well, in this game, I'd done this, which reminded me of a game I played back in like 1982. During that time, we had a dog, and the dog was lovely, and we got him from a shelter. Anyways, the dog bit the mailman, but I think that's where we work well together, because your commentary helps my commentary. It's like yin yang, isn't it?
Oh my god, yeah. I may have gone too far with it. It was like I had PTSD reliving it. But not even the person saying it wants to hear.
Yeah.
So.
So
Oh,
the only other thing I'd say, and I know we've said it a few times in the video, and I can't say it enough. Outrider Games, like literally, if it was closer, I'd be there once a week. I'd be going to the club nights. I'd be going to the league games. I think they've not long opened. The player base is great. You know, quite
yeah.
some people new into bolt action. Some people have been into it before it kind of got to there. You know, it's got a good base of players, like a range of skills. The location's great as well. Plenty of space. You know, it didn't feel cluttered or anything. And I know they have all kinds of systems, don't they? Magic the Gathering, 40k, all that stuff. But the most important thing is bolt action. But
100%.
Escalation League, we missed out on the 751. We might have
Yeah.
to play each other with the 750 list just to see what that'd be like. That's like,
Yeah, I'm up for that.
I don't even think you could get enough infantry in to make a 2 tiger list. But we've done the 1,000 pointer, so the next one's 1250. So we've got to go.
I think you're right, though. I think we both said it on the way home. It was such a great place to play. And if it was closer, we'd be there every week. It felt like a really friendly gaming place. It felt like a hub, didn't it, where people go and everyone gets on. So, yeah, big thank you to Outrider Games.
Yeah, specifically Clive. He done
yeah.
the. We were in contact with him beforehand. He answered loads of questions about kind of going down there. Yeah, he set everything up. He was TOing and everything, but he was checking in regularly as well, which was good. But I think overall, good result. I think that's all that needs to be said, really. Would you change anything on your list? Other than including MLRs when you get the new book?
No, I was happy with my list. I think people in the comments for the first video said they might struggle with flak, but I think there's ways of dealing with it. So I think there's potential there.
Yeah,
what
it's
about
called
you?
A super heavy anti-tank gun. You took a Pershing.
Love the Pershing. Would you change anything? I doubt it with the amount of kill points that you've
Would
racked
change
up.
anything? Yeah, but not within the confines of the rules. I wouldn't take any infantry just to prove a point. You've got to take them to grab objectives and stuff, but they did nothing. They were just there. I took them because I had to. Yeah, but
Yeah,
everyone plays differently. You know, there are good ways of playing infantry. We've said loads of times, rifle platoon has the answer for everything. You know, you could build an army around a rifle platoon. You know, you've got your anti-tank, you've got your transports, you've got your snap twos, you've got your medics, you've got anti-tank rifles, snipers, you know, infantry, veteran infantry, submachine guns, assault rifles, LMG for long range. They've got answers to kind of everything, you know, but I always kind of see it as I'll take a rifle platoon because I have to. So maybe I'll look into that. Just as a test and learn thing, you know, you never know. I might go away from the alpha strike mentality and just, you know, let's just go infantry fighting only. But then again, I've done that with the Japanese and it didn't work out well. I remember thinking, yeah, I'm going to charge him and cut him up, but then you just shot me on the way in. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this again.
Yeah, so I don't think it suits your play style, all infantry, but I would quite like to see it. I'd quite like to play it next event.
Yeah, so there we go. We've got two things lined up. We'll do a 750 game at some point, and we'll do a infantry on infantry. Well, not infantry, more a case of we can take transport, like a rifle platoon versus rifle platoon. Do you think you could win an event with a rifle platoon only?
I'll give you the answer after I see the new book. Potentially.
To be continued. Right. We'll end it there. Thanks for listening.
Sweet.
Bye.
If you made it this far, thank you for watching.
If you like what you saw, give us a thumbs up and hit the sub button.
We really appreciate any feedback, so drop a comment below, let us know what you think, what you'd like to see next. You never know, we might feature your comments in the next video. Until next time, thank you for watching The Dice Ghost!
Are you going to do that in every video?
Yeah, probably am.